Sure, Bill Alcoholic. Um, yeah, I don't know. Step 7, my favorite step in the whole program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I like to describe humility, which is the cornerstone principle, as Mike alluded to, of the whole program. The principle behind Step 7 is humility, and the whole program is based on humility. I like to think of it as 3 phases of humility. There's humiliation, there's humbled through pain, and then, as Mike said, the basic ingredient of all humility is that desire to seek and do God's will. I walk into the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous, and my humble admission over powerlessness and unmanageability is my first step in humility, and it's called humiliation. And then, for a guy like me to accept something greater than myself, Step 2, and the acceptance of Step 2 is also quite humbling. It's almost humiliating that I have to admit that I can't even run my own life, and I gotta maybe believe in something else. And then I get to Step 3, and I'm also humiliated again by I have to turn my will and my life over to this thing that I don't even know. And I'm humiliated again and humbled. But I'm on the right track. And then I get to Step 4, and I have all these preconceived ideas of who I am and what I'm about. But then I look on paper and realize that it's not all true. That I'm not actually who I thought I was. And then I get really, really humbled in my Step 5 as I talk out loud to somebody else and God, and I admit a lot of things and see truths that I've never seen in ways that I've never seen them. But the good thing is, what would I be like if I truly knew who I was? And that's a good question. What would I actually be like if I truly knew who I was? And I started figuring that actually out in my Step 4 and 5. I actually had, an honest analysis of what and who I really was, followed by a sincere attempt to become who I could be. And like Mike said, if I keep acting the same way, if I keep rolling with the ideas, emotions, and attitudes that have been guiding forces in my life, I will pick up again, because that's the solution to the way that I run my life. So I have to allow a whole new set of conceptions and ideas to dominate my life, which is where I start learning about humility more in Step 6. I become entirely willing to have all of these weapons that I've used to get what I needed or I thought I needed out of life, and I start laying these things down. But through the process of relinquishing these weapons or these tools or whatever you want to call them, defense mechanisms, bullshit, whatever, as I lay these things down and I try with the will, and it does not matter how haltingly I walk, it's a matter of, am I willing to try? And I start laying these things down. I start gaining in a different aspect of humility. And I start feeling some grace of God working in my life. And Step 6 is the beginning of a lifetime job, right? Step 6 never ends. Step 7 never ends. These are lifetime practices. They're the backbone of Alcoholics Anonymous. They're the backbone of the personality change. They are the 2 most important steps in this program. And as I go through the process of learning through pain and keep trying a different way, and sometimes the different way doesn't seem like it's right, because society's taught me using force and using prying and snatching out of life is kind of the way, like Trevor alluded to. But as I try something new and I do this blind faith thing of listening to my sponsor and following the directions in the book, I start gaining a new perspective in humility. And I'm going to read something here in Step 7. This improved perception, going from humbling into desire to do God's will, of humility, starts another revolutionary change in our outlook. Our eyes begin to open to the immense values, character building, which have come straight out of painful ego puncturing. In AA, we looked, we listened, everywhere we saw failure and misery transformed by humility. Step 6, humility, into priceless assets. We heard story after story of how humility, Step 6 humility, had brought strength out of weakness, In every case, the pain had been the price of admission into the new life. But this admission price purchased more than we expected. It brought a measure of humility, step 7 humility, desire to do God's will, which we soon discovered to be the healer of pain. We begin to fear pain less and desire humility more than ever. So I'll finish with this, the pains of drinking have to come before sobriety, and inner turmoil before serenity. And the pain of the change is the inner turmoil. It's one thing to lay down the drink, but it's another thing to really want to be willing to change and grow in the image and likeness of your Creator. And that's hard, man. That is hard work. But if you're willing to change, like, the benefits of it are they're enormous. They're unbelievable. And for anybody new or struggling or coming back, this program is not really about not drinking. It's about changing your personality and having this revolutionary change in your outlook towards life, towards your fellows, and towards God's universe. That is the actual promise. But it takes work, and it takes understanding the literature, and it takes being guided properly. So if you're new, you're struggling, coming back, this is where we get her done, but we don't get her done by sitting on our asses doing all. Keep coming. Thanks.